Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we are looking at a pretty big New Year's Eve slate. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody tonight. Make sure you are staying on playpicks.com and thelines.com, as we've got plenty of guys coming in and out of player health and safety protocol right now. Some guys coming back in and out of injury as well, all the way up to game time. Make sure you're checking that out before you get those best bets in. And do check out Nate's playpicks.com article, as he's got plenty of best bets and player props in there for you. And do like and subscribe to that page. We've got a couple other videos that we're looking at for you today. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Miami Heat headed to Houston, taking on the Rockets. Another couple teams decimated by players being out of that lineup, especially those Miami Heat. So we'll be looking at all the betting angles there. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, we got 2 afternoon games followed by 8 games starting at 6 p.m. or later if you're on the East Coast. So obviously we're not going to talk about those early games here. We are going to talk about Heat minus 3.5 at the Rockets right now. That's a 7 p.m. start. And that total is creeping up a little bit from 215 to 217. Still kind of like the over, and we'll tell you why in a second. But just want to run through the other games here on New Year's Eve slate. We got the Suns in an early game, 1 p.m., -4 at the Celtics. The Bulls at 3 p.m. are -4 at the Pacers. Then we get into the night games. Mavs -1 at Kings. That's our immediate rematch there. The Clippers are +6.5 at the Raptors, who got a few guys back. We break down Hawks -1 at Cavs. We like Atlanta to win there with the Cavs on a back-to-back. And look at our separate episode there. We got the Knicks -4 at Thunder. We got Spurs +6 at the Grizzlies, total of 226 as San Antonio continues to run and gun. Wolves are +11 at Jazz without probably their entire big three there. The Blazers are +6 at the Lakers as those desperate teams look to stay afloat in the playoff race. In this game, though, the Heat are also a bit desperate. I mean, they could not play their last game because they did not have 8 eligible players. So they went out and signed our guy, Mario Chalmers, of Kansas fame and of riding LeBron's coattails fame to 2 championships. He said he's been ready, and he has been in Houston since yesterday, ready to show that he can still play in the NBA. And more importantly, Miami should have both Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler in this game, which probably gives them the 2 best offensive players in this game. It's really, the importance to me is not how much talent Houston has, it's how much do they care about winning. And I think it's not at all at this point. They might have had a team meeting after winning 7 games straight where they said, like, wait a minute, let's slow it down here on the winning. Let's stop playing defense altogether. They've given up 122.5 points per game with a league worst 125 defensive rating. During a 1-7 stretch, they've gone over in 12 of their last 15 games altogether, allowing a league high 40% from 3 and the second most assists per game in that span, in that 8-game span. And their games are averaging 230 points per game combined. Now, Miami can still play defense with all these guys out. We got Omer Yurtseven, the 3rd-string center, graduate of Georgetown, a Turkish international who hashtags himself Yurt season, and he's been proving it with a 101.8 defensive rating as they've still won 4 straight games against pretty weak competition at home. But the Heat are playing a little bit more of a high-scoring situation here with all with guys out, with Bam Adebayo out specifically. They're still 12-5, and still in their last 3 allowing the fewest paint points, hashtag Yurt season, and the second worst assist-to-turnover ratio in that span. And then on offense, without Bam, they're getting more assists per game and shooting 41% from 3, so that's exactly what Houston gives up. As long as Tyler Hero is good to go, I would expect them to be able to get over their team total of just 108 in this game. And I think this whole entire game's going over. I would bet the over first and foremost. Heat have gone over in 10 of 12 games against the Western Conference and 6-0 when they have a rest disadvantage. These teams are both on 2+ days rest here. So it's not necessarily a disadvantage, but the Heat I also think are going to win. They're 5-0 when they have 2+ days of rest. They're also 9-3 when listed as underdogs and 10-2 against the spread. And I know they're not underdogs here, but the message in this locker room has to be that nobody believes we can win with, Jimmy, Tyler Hero, and a bunch of G League guys. But every time this team is doubted, I've learned that they respond. I mean, a Jimmy Butler-led team, that's exactly what they do. So as long as he's ruled in, I would take the Heat. I would take the money line parlay with the over, and you can get plus 200 on that. Or you can tease it down if you feel a little – if it continues to rise to like 218, you could tease it down a little bit to be safe and get the Heat actually as dogs along with that over.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if Houston's got, sticking with that over thought, if Houston's got, KPJ and Jalen Green both in there chucking, Christian Wood playing and the like, that's the bulk of their offense. They are in the top 10 in terms of scoring percentage of their points off of 3-pointers. Miami, if you are going to score on them, that would be the only place that I would see really able to do it these days. I mean, this isn't the same defensive team as they are with Kyle Lowry and Bam in there. Even Dwayne Dedmon, not to throw any shade at Yurt's season, but with, third string center for a reason. And so the 3-point line is one place where teams, can still score on Miami. They're in the bottom half of the league, actually, in opponent 3-point percentage. And especially as of late, in the last like 5 or 6 games, they're actually a little bit worse than they are normally as well. And on offense, they're not going to have much of a choice but to be continuing to play fast. Houston, they don't play D. They come down, they shoot within the first 10 seconds of a lot of possessions. And so, you're going to continue to see that pace, I think, as well for Houston. That will kind of dictate a little bit of what Miami needs to do. There's not too much for Miami to set up on offense. They're not going to play through Yurt season, and they're not necessarily going to be going down low in and out too much. So it's going to be a lot of Bam and Jimmy and Hero, passing the ball back and forth and trying to find a couple other guys that will be in the lineup. But they're just completely rocked right now. So the over is where I start, but I do think Miami can win this game. I'm a little bit nervous just because I think Houston does have the ability to come out and say, kind of fuck it, and just start throwing things at the hoop, knowing that they're once again not supposed to be winning and nothing has been working in their last 8 for them after they found some momentum on defense there. So, I think you still look at Miami's defense as formidable, but I think they're just going to be forced to be, to play a style of play where, this did rise, right, from 212.5 to about 216, because I think teams think that as well, that's going to be a little bit more offense tonight than what you would normally see if Miami had had Kyle Lowry, had Bam Adebayo in, and they wanted to play a lot more of of that style of just close you down and then run and pull up transition threes, etc. There's none of that for the normal Miami ball tonight. So I think it's going to be a little bit more helter skelter, and they are going to win, but we'll see a little bit more up and down. So I would follow you on that parlay of the money line and the over, but I would also just consider putting a big bet on the over as well as my best bet tonight for this one.
Yeah, I mean, an over in a Rockets game, I don't think anybody's going to argue with that right now. The way they're playing, their pace has actually slowed down, but they've just been so insanely inefficient on defense because, again, I don't think they care about losing at this point. Or, I mean, it's not like the guys out there don't necessarily care, but it's that the coaching staff is fine putting out lineups that are poor defensively because they've probably been instructed to say, like, it's player development is the most important thing here. Jalen Green's back now. He's not going to be very good defensively, certainly if he has to guard Hero or Butler at any point. The Rockets are allowing the 4th most paint points over their last 3 games. And on offense, they have the 3rd worst assist-to-turnover ratio. So, yeah, even though they're shorthanded, the Heat should still be able to get plenty of turns and get out and run here for some easy buckets, which is what they're going to need to do to get anyone else going besides, Hero and Butler. But as long as Hero's healthy, I mean, he's been active for all of their last 4 wins, and they're averaging 113 in that span. So, again, I'm looking at that team total there. If you think that they can score on this Rockets team, which everyone has, I mean, even the Pistons got near that number. So I think that's the over is the easiest starting point here. And if the combined total creeps up a little bit, I would tease it back down. But otherwise, just Heat win over and get yourself some good odds there.
Yeah, and something to consider that's a little bit interesting. You know, the looking ahead a little bit, Houston is going to also be playing a back-to-back after this one, and this is the first leg of that back-to-back. And in the last 19 such occurrences where Houston's playing the first leg of a back-to-back, they've lost 18 of those 19 games straight up. So you know, I'm sure there's a ton of other stats that are interesting, like Houston's lost a ton of games in this span kind of deal. But you know, that is an interesting one as well when you look ahead to the fact that they will be playing a back-to-back after this one. So that is all the time we have for this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Got that player props video up for you today as well, with some an opportunity for a gift card. But do need to be liked and subscribed to that page, so make sure you get in there. And until we see you next, Happy New Year and happy betting.